And good morning, everyone, and welcome back. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma, and this is what I call my morning musings. I'm on my third or fourth cup of coffee here, starting the day off real well, and really enjoying just reading the text of Thessalonians this morning. We're involved in a study of the epistles of Thessalonians. We're eventually going to focus on 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, 13 through into chapter 5. But in order to get there, in order to understand that text, we're laying the groundwork. We're looking at the context of the previous chapters. As I've suggested to you, it's certainly theoretically possible, at least, that in chapter 4, Paul is discussing something different from what he had discussed earlier. However, there is a unity of thought, there is a unity of theme, pardon me, in chapter 4 that directly links to the previous discussions. And here's something I want you to really think about, okay? I want you to catch the power of this. And that is, in virtually all of the previous discussions, Paul is focused on the fact that the Thessalonians are being persecuted. They had received the word in much affliction as they waited on the Lord Jesus Christ. He had urged them, do not be shaken in mind by the affliction that is among you, because I told you when I was with you, this had to happen. On and on, Paul has focused on the suffering that they were then enduring and correlated it with the coming of the Lord. Now, where did Paul get this? He got it from Jesus' discourse in Matthew chapter 24. In my book, We Shall Meet Him in the Air, the Wedding of the King of Kings, I present a chart in which I show over 22 major direct parallels between the Olivet Discourse and 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. Direct parallels. Suffering, martyrdom, to be climaxed by the coming of the Lord in vindication and judgment, runs throughout Matthew 23, 24, and 25. It permeates the books of Thessalonians. Now, here is Paul writing to people 2,000 years ago. He speaks of their martyrdom, their suffering at that present time. And here's what's so powerful. In the midst of all of his previous discussions of their suffering and their waiting on the Lord to come, he has to address their concern. As virtually every scholar who has ever written on Thessalonians agrees, the brethren at Thessalonica were very concerned that some of their brethren had died, i.e. through martyrdom, before the Lord came. Now, I want you to ask yourself the question. If Paul had taught the Thessalonians that the coming of the Lord may not be for 2,000 years, it may not be for 30 or 40,000 years, as some of my postmillennial friends suggest, if Paul had taught that the coming of the Lord was that far away, why were the Thessalonians so distraught that their brethren had died, had been killed in the persecution, and they had died before the Lord came? Didn't they know what Paul had said, i.e. the Lord would not come for so long? You see, only if Paul had taught them that the coming of the Lord was imminent, soon, at hand, could they have been so distraught that their loved ones had died before it happened. And as we shall see in depth when we look at the text of 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, Paul unequivocally asserts that generation would not pass until the Lord came. Twice. So when we look at the context of suffering and martyrdom prior to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, and we realize that suffering and martyrdom lies distinctly behind 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, and the concern of the Thessalonians that their brethren had died before the Lord came, it forces us to see that the coming of the Lord was to be the coming of the Lord in the first century. Because it's the coming of the Lord that Jesus promised, as He said that His disciples would be persecuted, they would be hated, they would be chased from city to city. Those who would persecute you think that they will do God a favor, John chapter 16. That's the persecution going on in 1 Thessalonians. But He promised them that He would come back in that generation in judgment of Old Covenant Israel and Jerusalem for persecuting them. This is first century persecution, first century parousia in vindication and relief. And that demands 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 was fulfilled in AD 70. We'll have more to say on that. Hey, I developed that and a whole lot more in my book, We Shall Meet Him in the Air, The Wedding of the King of Kings. Go to my website, eschatology.org, bibleprophecy.com. Order the book, mention that you saw the offer on YouTube or Facebook, and I'll refund your shipping. Thanks so much for joining me. Hey, hope you have a blessed, fantastic weekend. Lord willing, we'll see you on Monday.